Hello, thank you for the kind introduction. I knew something was wrong. On the day I received my final MBBS results, I was standing in the middle of my living room, and at that moment, there was no excitement. There was pin drop silence. And that moment scared me than any Viva could ever. Because growing up, I was told, डॉक्टर बन जा लाइफ सेट हो जाएगी. Most of us have heard some version of it growing up, and we felt that is the right thing to do. So I cracked the exam, got into a good college, I survived MBBS, and I still felt lost. So, how many of y'all ever have felt lost even after doing the right thing? I see a couple of hands up, right? On paper, I was doing exactly what I was supposed to be. I was presenting case reports at national conferences. I was writing research papers. I was building one of the strongest professional networks in the country. And I was also the founder of Humans of Medicare. Hi, I am Siddhant Kashyap, founder of Humans of Medicare, and for the last 8 months, fondly called as intern by my residents. And moving forward, I was confused. After doing everything right, why am I still being lost? Because according to LinkedIn, this is the part of your life where you're supposed to be happy. Let me be clear about this one thing, that this isn't about saying that MBBS is wrong. It's not about saying that we choose the wrong path. It is something that we were never told, that MBBS is a launch pad. And the day I realized this and I started seeing it from these lens, everything made sense. The confusion, the burnout, the feeling of being lost. And to understand that, we need to go to the very start. So early on in medicine, we are taught that if you're feeling tired, push through. If you're feeling you're lost, just endure. And if you ever feel that you have made it, be grateful. So when high achieving medical students suffer burnout, we don't call it a problem. We call it entitlement. And that, my friends, trust me, that feeling is not entitlement. That's information. The information we ignore, and ignoring is costing us more than we ever realize. Why we ignore it so well, we need to understand it by what medicine asks us from each and every day. So, in this is some part of medicine which we rarely acknowledge. It doesn't matter if you are not slept. It doesn't matter if something in your life is falling apart. It doesn't matter if you feel like quitting. You have to be at top of your game. One of the very few professions where you learn to perform under pressure. And this part about medicine is often spoken less about. That's quite sarcastic if I'd say that. So, I would be lying if I said that I want to quit medicine. I would be lying if I said that, MBBS is wrong. And 90% people sitting in this room would be lying too. Because we love waking up every day knowing that we are going to learn something new. We love waking up knowing that we are going to push our limits. We love waking up to learn skills which matter, skills which show up on someone else's worst day. And that feeling, you know, gives us a lot of gratification. So, again, but loving medicine doesn't mean that is the only thing I'm allowed to be. And that is the difference between loving something and making it your entire identity. That is where quiet exhaustion begins. And it is just not one day, it is over the years, it compounds as we follow what we were told the right path. So let's zoom out for a moment and understand that most doctors don't suffer from burnout because they are incapable. They suffer from burnout because they're trapped into a single version of success. And that, my friends, that trap is invisible from outside because medicine from outside looks one beautiful paradise. Correct me if I'm wrong. And this led me to a search. And in that search, I met doctors who were immersed into the rat race, and when it finished, they didn't know what to do next. I met residents who felt guilty even to accept that they are unhappy because somewhere someone had it worse. So, what if medicine isn't hard? What if we were never told what it's truly meant to be? And so, as I told, a lot of research papers I was into, and I came across this paper by Dr. Isaac. He says that medical students and residents suffer and struggle from burnout at twice and thrice the rates than their non-medical counterparts. Actually, this tells and this confirms the reality. So, again, medicine isn't hard because we were told it was hard, but actually, it is the environment we are in. And this question led me to find answers beyond medicine, and I found it in physics. So in 1930s, Dr. Richard Feynman, one of the prominent physicists, speaks about his equation of the light integral equation, and in that he says a particle moving from point A to point B, it traverses every possible path, the bent ones, the curved ones, the linear ones, before it reaches its destination, not just the linear ones. Because in the hindsight, that journey looks linear. And that linear journey is what we see our medical careers. MBBS, MDMS, DMMCH, fellowship, residency, consultancy, right? So what if our medical careers were just like that particle, which were never meant to be a single straight line? What if they were meant to traverse every possible pathway before we reach our destination, whatever we call it? And that understanding came up with another question, which was what happens to the human behind the doctor, which eventually became Humans of Medicare, which I started on 1st March 2023 as soon as I entered my third MBBS. Initially, it was just an Instagram page, maybe exist among the billion others on the internet, but also came with a cool tag of founder, third year MBBS, right? That responsibility, I didn't understand it back then. But when I started speaking with doctors, senior doctors who shared their stories on a platform, and that inspired young residents, junior doctors, who eventually told us that if they could do it, even we can, I can. And that moved us, that pushed us to share more stories. And it didn't matter if we were hitting 10K, 20K, 30K, 40K followers or views. That moment, we were just focused on bringing in stories about doctors who eventually became actors, directors, writers, musicians, public health scientists representing India at each and every platform in the world. And the pattern was very clear that these doctors made sure that they utilize their MBBS as a launch pad. They Some of them moved far away from MBBS, some of them stayed close, but nobody ever wasted the degree. But a coin has its two sides. At the same time, we were receiving messages from residents who were suppressed, bullied, worried, junior doctors, senior residents, what they were going through. There was a pattern again, and that pattern had a name, and that was called identity burnout. So, to understand that, let's listen to this carefully. So, when you attach your entire self to one particular role, any pressure on that role feels existential. That moment, failure feels fatal, rest feels undeserved, and even a small amount of exploration feels dangerous. The problem isn't that doctors are incapable, the problem is that they were told only one version of themselves to believe in that. And when I said that MBBS is launchpad, I truly meant it because it can take you anywhere and everywhere in the world and make you anything that you want to be. Because in our casualty, when we stand there, it tells us to stay calm under chaos, build an identity where you have to take high stakes decisions. Our rural posting teaches us to take responsibility when there is no one else to rely on. And there is no option to say that I'll figure it out tomorrow. And these aren't just normal skills. And these are not just clinical skills, they are global skills, life skills. Let me be clear once again. This isn't about walking away from medicine. It's about quitting the lie that we were once told that there is only one right way of becoming a doctor. And maybe, what if the opposite is true? What if? What if? What if? Why? We were meant to be more than one thing. So everyone listening this, each and every student over here, doctor, everyone, start before you're ready. Not an Instagram page, not a YouTube channel, but be curious, ask questions, build identities which do not collapse under pressure. Because medicine is hard and it's just going to get harder. So when that day comes, you'll have somewhere solid to stand on. Also, very important, quit waiting for permission from your teachers, your parents, your society, and being afraid of rules because rules they will never return. So, if I had to leave you with one last thing, it would be medicine teaches you to show up on your worst days, but that does not mean it has to decide who you are on your best ones. So, if you're lost and if you've done everything right, and if you still feel that, trust me, be there. Because I am someone who failed to get into this college, the very college my mother studied in. But here I am giving a TED talk in front of you.